within a cemetery. I will fight, never wary, I wanna be legendary. Till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never wary, I wanna be legendary.
And here we have him, Mick Kennedy. How are you, mate?
Very well, Rocco.
Mick,
Vince,
it's great to see you, mate.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting us into your lovely homestead here on the outskirts of Ballarat.
Yes.
Although it's not going to be your home for much longer, I believe.
No, after 23 years, we're finally moving down to the beach. So, retirement has approached. So
Fantastic. Yeah. So you're going from a tree change to a sea change. Where are you heading off to?
Well, down Port Arlington way. So
nice.
Beautiful.
Which would be
Nice.
Now I know someone I can go and visit during the summer holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a few. We went to go and see
there's a few characters.
Peter Francis. He was up
Yes,
in
Rosebud.
Rosebud.
Yeah. Yes, and Brad Fisher, he was down at Blairgowrie.
Oh, Brad Fisher was there. Yeah. So a few people moving over there.
I think Peter Francis.
Yeah, but that's Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah, I know.
Peter Francis played in the '79 premiership.
Parko and a few others are all down that way too. Colcaneer is down that way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Parko, wasn't he up in
Bowen Heads,
Hawthorn?
No, he's moved. Yeah.
Is he moved?
Yeah, Point Lonsdale, I think, or something.
Nice.
Like that.
Spending a bit more of their
got 2 houses.
senior years back in a nice, comfortable environment, eh?
Exactly.
Nice.
This is beautiful here, though.
No, it's perfect.
Love it.
Now we're here to talk about
Football.
Mick Kennedy,
And your
that 1987
excellent
premiership player.
career at Carlton.
Does that 1987 premiership player? Does that how does that like sit with you? You know, like the.
Great.
Yeah, I was going to say like the 1987.
We come out with the hard hitting questions.
Well,
everyone.
when we say that, like I find that interesting. Like we just say it, but you're actually the 1987 premiership player.
I think you don't realise how big an impact it has on your life.
Yep.
I mean, me personally, I feel like it was hard earned.
Yes.
You know, because there was a lot of time in reserves.
It was hard earned, yeah.
So it wasn't easy. It didn't just happen. You've got to be in the right place at the right time. But having said that, from that moment on, you know, realistically, there's almost not a day that goes by that someone doesn't mention it. And that's just for me.
Yeah. Is that right?
I would consider it was a lesser light. So I'd hate to be Kernahan or Bradley or any of those. Cause
that's right.
Every single conversation they'd have would be about
it. Would be. Everything would be about football,
No, it's very satisfying, very pleasing, and I think I learned a lot for life. You know,
I reckon you peaked at the perfect time. Because that year, you probably were the fittest of your entire career, and you had more impact and played some really, really good games in that year that we won the flag. A lot of other players have their best year in a year where they don't win the flag. But you actually had your best year in that premiership year. Yeah,
well, for me it was a make or break year. Because as we said, I played my first game in '84.
Yes.
Which was the last round 22 against the
Swans. How was that? Tell us a little bit about your first game of senior footy.
Well, I was 64 kilograms. Wow. Believe it or not.
Ringing wet.
I think the program said I was 72.
Your mullet was a bit like way more than that. Did you have the mullet there?
No, not really. I had the flash dance. Spikes on the top and just a little bit at the back. I thought it looked pretty good. That was my first game under Parkin.
Yes.
And still on the bench with 5 minutes to go, as you were in those days. And
that's right, because they really didn't take anyone off the bench to play unless someone else either got injured or was sadly out of form. Yeah.
So you've waited all this time for your opportunity. It's not going to come. So I remember just running up and down the boundary line, looking up at where I thought the coach's box was, in the social club.
Were you looking up?
Any chance of coming on the ground here? So they put me on, and I got on the Plays of the Year. That's what my exciting part. Is
that right?
Yeah, I was at the highlight package of the year because what I did was I had a couple of kicks and handballs, which was good, but I ran past Billy Picken. And he stuck the arm out and gave me the almighty coat hanger, and I flipped upside down and nearly got killed. and it was on the Players of the Year. And I thought, that's great. I didn't care
So
that I
this
got
is
killed.
in your first game of football?
Very first game, yeah.
And last round of 1984?
Last round. Got dropped for the finals, yeah. David Glascott came back in for the finals, so
Right.
that was a shame, but we, as you know, went on and we played in the reserve grand final that year as well.
that's right.
So, yeah, so,
Close.
so that was great.
And you were wearing a pretty heavy number on your back at the time.
No, I had 55 to start with, yeah. Which
And I
again,
think
I was a bit disappointed because one thing, you know, if you're involved in footy clubs, you know that the lockers are
Yes.
important.
Yeah.
You know, who you're next to and who you're not.
That's
you know.
right.
Ended up next to Justin Madden, of course, but 55 was actually, there was no 55. It was actually out into the toilet block. It was about the third
I was
toilet
just going
block.
to
I had to
say,
get changed.
they start at number 1 and go
Yeah,
over
it goes
44.
round around.
And then, yeah.
And that's it, yeah.
You were in the Princess Park car park
that's it.
getting
Well,
changed.
didn't Harmsy wear 54
54
for one game?
In fact,
or
we,
one?
we should do a little exercise one day on all the players that started in the 50s
Yeah.
because
Well, he said that, he was only one locker away from
Yeah.
getting kicked out of the club, you know, you're that far.
yeah. I think there was only one other player in the history of Carlton that wore number 55 in a senior game before you.
Ah,
Do you know who that is?
No, I wouldn't know. No.
His name was Mark Buckley.
Oh, yeah,
and
Mark.
he played back
Another
in
Faulkner boy.
the early 1980s.
Yeah,
I think it might have been 82 that he played about 4 games in that Guernsey.
Well, I caught up with a good mate of his the other day, Neil Gagan. You know
Oh,
Neil
yes,
Gagan?
Neil
Yeah.
Gagan, yes.
So, yeah, up near Noosa. So,
Right.
yeah, so Mark's still floating around.
So you did mention that Faulkner,
yeah.
yeah. So in your junior years, you always played footy?
Oh, I love footy, yeah. I don't know what it was, I just love footy. I had a cousin, Jimmy, around the corner.
Yeah.
So
And,
you were brought up in that area? Faulkner?
Yeah. Mum and Dad bought a house in 1964 and when I was just a baby.
Yep.
So I lived there till I moved out and got married. But my cousin lived in the next street, so we would often just be having a kick in the, out in the street and all that sort of stuff. So I remember asking my parents if I could play for the local footy club when I was 7, and they
Really?
they only had under 11s. So they said,
Bit young.
bit too big a gap.
Were
But
you
I-
little? Were you a smallie?
Yeah, I would have probably always been a bit the same.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Well, he was
care.
64 kilos
Yeah,
ringing
that's
weight when he
true.
first started. So.
It's about 32 kilos. So that was that. And so I started when the North Faulkner actually started up an under-9s team.
Yeah.
So a couple of mates of mine got together. So instead of playing for Moomba Park, which was the closest club, we
Yes.
ended up playing up at North Faulkner.
I remember all these names very well because I was raised in Coburg, so
Sadly,
Faulkner was the next suburb up.
Yeah.
We
So,
often
yeah.
used to play against those schools,
Yeah,
St
so-
Mark's and St Matthews and all that.
Yeah, and we had some gun teams, and I think I showed you the shack before.
Yes,
and
we saw the shack with all the little...
I think we won a
Yeah.
premiership, luckily, in North Faulkner nearly every year. I think in my first 5 years of footy, I think I'd lost one game by a total of 1 point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we were pretty lucky. But
Dominant teams.
yeah, but I never got, because of good coaches and that, you never got arrogant about it. It was just what happened, and you concentrated and you tried hard. And
They kept you grounded.
kept you very grounded. So yeah, junior footy was great, and I always loved it. And ended up moving from North Faulkner to St Mark's around under 15 mark.
Yep.
Had a little dispute with the club. We were playing footy on Saturday and Sunday as juniors.
as
Right.
you do, yeah.
Playing under 11As, for example, on the Saturday, and then in the under 11Bs to help out
No, okay.
on the Sunday. And when it got to finals time, the club wanted us to keep going in the Bs. And we said, well, hang on, we're only helping them out. So yeah, that fell apart.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Mark Williams, a good mate of mine, he ended up at Carlton. We played together
Yes.
from under
Yeah.
9s.
Number 39 for
Number
Carlton
39,
back
and
then?
a couple other champs, Johnny Trainer and Tad Sagquitz. You don't know, they're good
No,
mates of
I
mine.
don't know
Got to
those
give them a
names.
mention, yeah.
Yeah, give them a
So,
mention, yeah.
So how do you get from playing for your school in Faulkner to all of a sudden coming to
for
Carlton?
Carlton.
What happens
Yeah.
there?
What was that first?
Well,
Did
as
one
you
of the
know, with
Carlton
some of the other
scouts
ones-
come and find you? Or?
Well, it's just through that under 19s process. Carlton were linked to the Faulkner area.
Yes.
So
How old were you when you
didn't
first
actually
started
play
playing
any of
under
the-
19s?
Well, they had under 16 squads and things, and I
Yeah.
didn't get into that.
Right.
And as you probably know, I'm a fairly determined sort of character.
Yeah.
So that was more probably a driver for me than anything
Yeah.
else. That you see guys, at the local swimming pool wearing their Carlton shorts from under 16 squads, and I just sort of, you haven't
you-
quite made it yet, mate. But so
Were you always good at, were you one of the better footy players in your little kind of
Oh.
did you stand out?
well, I'd like to think so.
You like to think so, yeah.
I won best and fairest for the
Oh,
club.
okay,
and
so that's what I mean,
I
yes,
played in the
you're-
centre and all that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
I never grew as high as tall as some and all that. But that, and in the end, that probably helped me, because
Yeah.
I've always argued there's some blokes who are a bit unlucky. They get to a certain height that's too tall to be what I was, you know, a back pocket player, forward pocket player. You know, too short to be a ruckman or whatever, and they get stuck. You know, and there were a lot of half forward flanker types at Carlton at the time.
Yes.
You know, and I was a midfielder. I loved playing the centre, and I played a lot in the centre in the reserves.
Yep.
But I was never going to play centre with Wayne Johnson and the likes in the seniors, so I had to adapt. And my adaptation was that I just did whatever I was told.
Yeah.
So that turned into tagging, playing as a defender, you know.
Yes.
So when did you first get to Carlton? Obviously, 84 was the year that you played your first game right at the end. But were you there before that too?
Yeah, I got there. I invited down in 82.
82,
the under 19s. So there were 90 players, you know, invited to train.
Yep.
And again, I always thought that I could make it. And it was interesting, reflecting back as you do when you're coming up to see me, there were a couple of blokes that say, oh, you know, what's going to happen if you miss out? You know, you're going to go and do this. And I never entertained that thought. I thought, no, I don't want to start thinking about that because I want to make it, you know. So he just went step by step, a little bit further, got into the team, and then we had a good reserves under 19s team as well. You know, a lot of good players that came through.
Because when you got there, I mean, Carlton had just won a premiership in 81 and then won back-to-back in 82. Did you think, geez, it's going to be pretty hard to break into this team, or did that not faze you at all? Did you just focus on...
No, you don't think those things, really. Okay. I remember 82 was fabulous because we were, as an under-19 player, and I was the first year under-9 player, I was invited to their training during the finals. Okay. And I can still remember, like, being out at Waverley playing on Wayne Harms. So suddenly you've gone from watching the footy to you stand next to him.
You played on Wayne Harms?
Yeah.
So when did you get out of hospital?
Pride nearly killed him. Because I used to run. You know, that was my thing. I was fit. I could run.
Yes.
And so I remember, I think I might have been on the half forward line, and he was on the half back line. I'm just taking off. Yeah. And I remember him telling me, Mick, just stop doing it. He didn't want to chase me around. So I had to slow up a bit.
I could just see Armsy. So would you bloody slow up, would you?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm trying to impress everyone, you know.
Of course.
Red team versus the Blues.
He's just trying to get through now.
He's just trying to get through to play a game, you know. So, but to be part of that group, to watch them train and to go and watch their finals.
That is funny.
It was just incredible. And it gave you a real taste of what it could be.
And that was probably one of the great, like 79 to 82, 83, one of the
But isn't that good that they got the under-19s to train with the boys before the finals? And that would have given you that bit of a taste, just that little sample of, hey, look what these guys are doing to prepare for a grand final.
Yeah. And the other thing they did do was, so that was 82. Yep. So in 83, again, playing under 19s.
Yep.
And I think, you know, I had times being captain, and, you know, they used to share that around a bit with Trevor Keogh.
Yes, Trevor Keogh was your coach. Great player.
Helping. But we used to play maybe on a Saturday, and then if you were going well enough, which was a good incentive, you'd get taken off the ground at half time and said,
in the reserves.
You're playing the reserves tomorrow.
Wow.
So that was really exciting, you know.
And you did that a fair bit in 83?
Yeah, I think I played 10 or 11 games in the reserves as well.
And that was always before the game, wasn't it? In those days. They played before the game, but before
at Princess Park, we'd be getting there at 11 o'clock, and you'd be
or the Army Reserves down at South Melbourne.
Oh yeah, the Army.
So you'd have it on the telly or something, you know. Yeah. So, and again, that was great fun.
Because you would have had a bit of a crowd all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, obviously certainly at the games, you know. So that was just the excitement of Princess Park. What a fantastic ground that was, you know.
It was.
One of the criminal things that's happened in footy is to lose that ground because it was just a fantastic place to go to the footy, watch the footy. You know,
I'll never forget.
I'll
never forget.
It was perfect. So
I'll take it to my grave, the memories of Princess Park.
So I guess your whole career is just a progression of little steps, and. You know, you're always aiming just to be included into the next thing, you know, to get invited back to pre-season training with the seniors sort of thing. And I think in my, booklet of players and that says I was the last bloke picked and all that sort of stuff, which I sort of disagree with a bit. I don't know if that talks about the first year of my under-19s where I trained with them, where I might have been the 13th bloke, or the second lot, but I would have thought that having played 10 games, I wouldn't have been the last bloke.
Absolutely, no.
But you never know. That's what they need. So
actually, rumour has it, the way you played at Faulkner and all of that
yes.
was nothing to do with recruiting you.
Why is that?
Because it's the recruiters that saw you play in the Little League for Carlton. Now, is that right? Did you play Little League with a Carlton jumper on?
I did, certainly.
There you go.
I played 13. So I told you blokes know me better than I know.
I do my homework.
I played 13 games back in the day when we played.
13 games?
Yeah,
In the Little League?
we played the full ground, and they used to have a Little League squad more so than just pick a group.
How old were you then in the Little League? Were you 6
under
or were you 8 or
11s,
10?
under
Or?
11s. Yeah, probably 10. Yeah, 10, 11.
They used to play the whole camera.
We played the whole ground. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, God. You went to like a little kid.
And I think the biggest score, like I didn't play this one week because we used to, take turns a bit, but they kicked 14 goals, 14.
No.
On
The Little
at
League?
half time on the full ground.
That's more than some of the teams.
Well, Peter German, who ended
That's
up
more
playing
than what the teams do now.
Yeah. Peter German was playing for us. He ended up
Is that right?
playing for North Melbourne, and Mark Williams again, myself, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of the Hadfield
So some of those
players.
guys you played Little League with?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's unreal.
And you knew blokes, that was the thing.
Yeah.
You sort of knew characters from around the traps.
So that would have only been, 73, 74, 1975 maybe?
Yeah, 76, I think. Yeah,
That's
something like
76?
that. Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, good stuff. And then, and you get your little certificate. I got a certificate there somewhere.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Says how many games you played and whatnot. And
How good's that?
yeah.
So you
You
played
wore the
13
calm
games.
jumper, even though...
Do you remember what number you wore in the Little League? Was it the same number every week or different
No, I
numbers?
couldn't tell you. No, I think I was about number 7 or something, maybe 13. Yeah.
Even though you followed the Cats...
At the
you
time.
were putting the Carlton jumper on. How was that?
It was fine. Yeah, no.
Navy blue, that'll do.
That's right. My grandparents were down in Geelong, and my dad barracked for Geelong, so I was
Yeah.
at Geelong. I had Johnny Scarlett's number on my back. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Matthew Scarlett's
Matthew
dad.
Scarlett's dad, yes.
So number 30 on my back.
But do you know that there's a relationship there with a Carlton great?
What's that?
The Scarletts.
Scarlett's? No. What would that be?
Bruce Dill.
Oh, right. Is he related to the Scarletts? Oh,
Bruce Dill, I believe, is
Two of the greatest
Matthew
defenders of all time.
Scarlett's uncle or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. So
Or
there was
he's
some
related in some way. He might be a cousin. I'm
bit
not
of
There
sure.
was a bloodline there. 'Cause, they were both pretty good defenders.
Pretty good defenders.
Yeah, no, I used to go and watch a couple of Geelong games a year and wait till the blokes had drunk a few beers, because in those days they had the cans that were
Yes.
the steel cans.
Yeah, we
Not
stand
the
on the
aluminium,
cans.
and you prop them up,
Yes.
then you stand on the cans.
They
and
were
look over the
huge.
top.
They were huge cans. I remember that.
So you could look over the top, but until then you just had to kick down the
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
'cause
That's
it's-
unreal because the young people won't understand that.
No, that's
No.
right. Well, my dad worked for the gas and fuel,
Yeah.
and I remember him bringing home a can one day, and he said, "This is the new thing, son." I said, "What is that?" He goes, "It was an aluminium can."
Yeah.
So they just put gas into Alcoa or something. They were just about to make these things called aluminium cans.
Yeah, that's
So
no,
Wow.
I thought, oh, that's all right. So yeah.
that's
So
unreal.
yeah. So I have played. Yeah, I don't know how many blokes have played in the
How
little
much,
league.
how much,
the
what was
reserves,
the capacity
under
of those big cans, I wonder? Like
they were big.
if a normal can of beer is
750.
375 mils,
Yeah,
they must have been at least a litre.
Only 5. No,
Yeah, I reckon 500 or 600.
500,
I reckon,
yeah.
500 or 600 only.
Yeah.
Jeez, I reckon there would have been a bit, maybe
I never
600.
drank them. I was only a kid. So that's all right.
But they were tall, weren't they, those cans?
They were the big ones.
I'll never forget them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So there you go.
So,
bit of reminiscing there,
let's
back to
get
the
into
70s.
the 87 season.
Right.
That was a big season because, as Vince was saying, it was a good season for you.
Well, actually, before we start the season, you played in the 86
Yes.
Reserves Premiership. Not
Yes,
Premiership.
I did. Yeah, premiership.
Yeah.
So
the
Premiership, yes, in the
yeah.
reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would have, that was the curtain raiser to us losing to Hawthorn in the
It was, yeah.
in the seniors. But were you in any way a chance of playing in that senior team by that stage or not?
No, I played one senior game in 84, 2 in 85 and 3 in 86.
Yes.
So 87 was my make or break year.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I trained great over summer.
Yep.
We had a lot of competitions.
Were you feeling frustrated at not getting more opportunities at senior level by that stage? Because
yeah, I was,
after
yeah.
you played your first game in 84, you probably would have expected to play a few more in 85 and 86 than that.
Yeah, but interestingly, you don't know your faults. You think
Yeah.
you know how good you are, but you don't know your faults. So I remember one day at training, and again, I was only 64 kilos, so we're doing this little handball drill around the square, and
Yeah.
you'd run halfway along the line, and then big handball to the other end. And, so Reddit was going, and I'm trying to hit the ball up to the other
Right,
end.
eh?
I was just sort of flopping along. Warren Jones, big wow Jones,
wow.
he looked at me and goes, "For Christ's sake, Mick, get in the gym, will you?" So you think you're good enough.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, you look back, there were obviously things that you weren't actually ready.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been physically ready
Yeah.
to play that. I would come in to play against Petraglia or someone from Footscray.
Yes.
I'd tag him, in the seniors, have a great game. He wouldn't get a touch. and then I'd get dropped. You know, so they sort of use me on occasions.
Just to play for a role for a particular player.
Obviously, didn't think I was quite ready. So it wasn't until '87 where I thought I've had a gutful now. And I really wanted to make it.
At the end of '85, Parkin and Walls did the big swap with Fitzroy. So Parkin was gone.
Yeah.
Walls came in. Did you have a good introduction to him as a coach in '86, even though you only played 3 games?
Yeah, no, I had a lot of respect for Wolsey. I mean, he changed his coaching as it went along, as some people might say. But what I thought, he was very innovative in the things that he did. You know, like a lot of the stuff that's in even today came in our period through Hawthorn or Carlton. You know, so for
example, I remember the kick-outs from full back, and they used to have the spread. What they used to call that? I think there was a name for it.
It might be myself and Tom Elvin running.
The huddle.
We'd huddle. That's correct. Yeah.
So everyone's in the middle. Every player is literally in a line from one goal square to the other.
And 2 would break one way.
As the fullback's about to kick it out, they all start to spread.
I'm telling you, that's bloody ingenious.
It was great.
That was innovative, and it worked a lot, didn't it?
Well, it was also that there were 2 of us nominated to run to the side.
Okay, yeah.
And we would just work out amongst each other who that person was at the time, and I'd run past your bloke, give him a whack, and then you're out and gone, and by then you had a 10 metre break. But I mean, that then led to the zones, you know.
That's right.
So the outer zone. So now that they play that, you know, so all those things, one led to the other.
Right.
And also in the forward line, I remember we'd have half an hour out with the group and say, right, come up with a forward strategy. So, you know, like Kerners and Braddles and all the rest would be talking about, you know, we'd get a mark out on the flank and we'd just line up everyone along the line.
Right.
You know, and everyone would break left, right, and then the full forward would come through out the middle.
Ah,
and, you know, that stuff worked.
So that creates like a parting of the seas sort of thing, and then the full forward's got plenty of room to...
Oh, they've got to chase you.
100% they can't.
Because in those days you manned up, you see.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about
that. So the negative of that is that if he goes, you've got to go with him.
Of course.
So then the gap opens.
Yes.
And we had horseshoes, we had all sorts of things, and even in '87 against Hawthorn, they were a powerful defensive unit.
Yes.
So, the strategy there was just to stretch them right out so they couldn't work together. So, Fraser Murphy or whatever would start right out of the pocket, and Molly Melton would start in the other pocket. And everyone would be all spread out, and then we'd all shoot in. Less chance for them to, just come across.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So, his strategies were excellent.
But Robert Walls at the end of '86 really, apparently there was a bit of a list management cull, and the axe was quite sharp, and a lot of players... if they weren't delisted, they were basically left in the reserves for most of '87.
Yeah.
And he showed a lot of faith in the younger guys like you, who had only maybe played a handful of games.
Yeah.
Ian Aitken played his first game, I think, in '87, and played 16 games, and his 16th game was a premiership.
Yeah.
Shane Robertson, Warren McKenzie, Fraser Murphy.
Yeah.
These are young blokes that he showed a lot of faith in, even at the expense of some iconic players who'd played 3 and 4 premierships even before that.
Yeah, and you're always nervous with those blokes breathing down your neck, which brought the best out of you.
I was going to say, you need that.
Some of them he actually shipped off to St Kilda, like Mark Koo and Sheldon and guys like that.
And you'll probably ask at some stage about being delisted or whatever. But I promised myself at that stage when Peter McConville's gone, Phil Marlin's gone, and those blokes, and I'm still there. I'm thinking, how the hell am I still here? Like those blokes were highly talented people. That's right. Far more talented than I am. But I thought, right, when my day comes, I'm not going to cry. I'm just going to go. But I still did cry. But, but people move for reasons. So why would you keep Mick Kennedy and lose Peter McConville? Well, he doesn't play where I play, sort of thing, and they might
100%.
They might have 2 of them or whatever. It's interesting and it's hard. That's part of the industry. It's really tricky, but all you can do is.
But that must have been a real confidence booster for you to know that, hey, this guy's really backing me in here. And you played a number of games. How many games did you play in '87? Nearly all of them.
Yeah, 22 or so.
23 games. So. Yeah. And you had a really good year, and he really got you guys fit after the '86 loss to Hawthorn in the seniors. You played in the reserves, of course.
Yeah. We trained hard,
but he got you guys rock hard fit.
One of the probably key things for me personally at that time was I just always did my thing. I didn't sort of speak to the coaches much, In fact, funny, like Wes Lofts, I remember one day standing next to him one day, and he looked at me. This was after I'd already played senior footy, and he said, "Oh, how are you, Berkey?"
Berkey?
Yeah, Rowan Burke. He thought I was Berkey.
He thought you were Rowan Burke? Oh, my God.
And he's chairman of selectors. I think, what chance have I got? But anyway, what I had seen in the past, Justin Madden, when he first came to Carlton, he was a bit maligned and all that. He played a lot of reserves footy and was struggling. And he had a bit of a blow up one day, and he told the coach what he thought, and from then on he changed, and he got in the team, and all changed for him. Brucey Reid, who came across from I think Footscray at the time, or St Kilda, one or two.
Yes.
He was in a bit of a bad patch, and he wasn't getting any better because once you can labour in the seconds. And I remember him ringing up the coach and going off his head, and 2 weeks later he's in the seniors. So I'd had this process of...
I can see where this is going.
Yeah, so I'd played always pre-season, play the first game or two, certainly the night games and that before the season, and inevitably get dropped, for the first game or whatever. So same thing had happened. I had a big pre-season, 87, first game, no, you're not in the team. And of course, the levels were getting higher and higher. So I remember Mark Nayley, new guy to the club, star player, and Wolsey saying to him, look, mate, you need, because he wasn't in form, he wasn't playing well, and he said, look, you need to just get about 18 touches, get your confidence up, and you'll be right to go. And here am I listening to this. I've had 18 touches, I've been dropped. So I couldn't help it. I've got on the phone and said, what the hell's going on? And to his credit, 2 weeks later, I'm back in the team and never went out of it.
Oh, wow. So you got the nerve up to...
Yeah, and I'd never done it before, but it gave...
Didn't maybe coaches test you to some degree to see how much you're going to cop before you just stand up for yourself and say, hey, come on, enough's enough. Give me a fair crack.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of that, how much does he really want it? Is he serious? So
trying to think...
What was he... Did he talk to you? Did he say to you,
Did he ever sit down with you one-on-one and have some real good heart-to-heart chats? Or was he not that type of coach?
Not really with me necessarily, but he always had a report, after the game.
Yep.
We'd all be rated. We'd all knew exactly where we stood and what was going on and what he liked about your game and what he valued in the way you played. So you tended then to keep shaping your game. So it wasn't necessarily verbal sitting down with you each week, which it probably would be now because they're full time. But we're at work. I worked during the day. Came in, trained. I'm exhausted. I've got to get home. So there's not much time just to sit around having a chat with 35 or 40 players.
It was different back then.
Different players. So you got your report. You go through it with you each week. Highlight the things that he thought were valuable.
Were those reports any different to David Parkin's reports?
Probably. I've actually still got most of them. I got them in the filing cabinet. And Colin Kinnear, the other great coach at the time, who was at the club, who obviously coached me a lot in reserves, was similar. They're all school teachers.
I was just going to say, between Parkin and Kinnear and Walls, they're all school. And you've gone on to become a school teacher and a principal.
I have, and that's why I think blokes like Wayne Harms and that couldn't stand the pressure because they've been lectured to and told what to do. And they didn't need to hear it from a school teacher at that stage.
Now, did you used to get up to no good with the boys and head off to the Norton's pub now and then and...
No, I wasn't one of those characters.
Get on the drink or not?
No, you've already spoken to Robbo, haven't you? Yes. Good mate Robbo. Robbo will tell you all the stories.
Shane Robertson, great guy. He's another boy that went to St Joseph's in North Melbourne, which is where you went.
Yeah, we played.
And I almost went.
We played footy together at St Joe's and that. Yes, and he was a broady boy, but...
brilliant athlete too, he used to do athletics.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to be able to get on the drink and then still play footy, so I was engaged. So
you guys were a bit better behaved than some
I'd like to think, my mum and dad wouldn't put up with that nonsense, so I was never much of a drinker. They used to call me Pop Plant, was my nickname at Carlton for a long period of time.
Pop Plant? All you do is feed him water?
No, they'd try and give me a drink, and I'd say, look, I don't want to drink it, and they'd give me a drink, I'd say, oh, thanks for that, and then they'd go off somewhere, and they'd come back, and I would have put it on the windowsill somewhere. They say, where's that drink? You poured it into a pop plant. So they called me Pop Plant. But now they blokes call me Flower Pot and stuff. No, you got it wrong. So
Did you have a nickname back when you played?
Nah, just Mick. Yeah.
Just Mick.
Yeah. Nothing else.
Some of the players have got some interesting nicknames and.
Well, there's a few blokes like Justin Madden used to make them up.
Did he?
I think. Harry. Justin was.
How did he get Harry? How did he get Harry from Justin Madden?
Well, Martin Sloan used to be at the club, who's from Bendigo. He's a ruckman,
right?
And his name was Harry. His nickname was Harry, and then he got the sack when Justin came in. So they just moved the nickname.
Is that how it happened? Yeah. Oh my God! And to this day, everyone still calls him Harry Madden.
They called him Harry.
That, isn't it? Like, nicknames at our footy clubs, man, they can last. Well, a lot of them last for your whole life. Actually, they get called that nickname instead of their real name.
They do, yes.
Some of them actually don't like their nicknames. We did an interview with Fraser Murphy, and he used to get Smurf, and he didn't like it.
That's understandable. I can understand.
But that was funny, man. Like he said the story when they used to go travelling in the planes. The place used to organise the stewardess to go and bring him some colouring books.
Poor bugger. That's funny. He looks more like a Smurf now, though, doesn't he? I think grey hair.
Back to footy, 87. What a great year! I think we only lost 3 games by maybe 1 point, 3 points, and 8 points or something like that during the season.
No, it was a fabulous year.
You must have had this feeling of infallibility, really.
We did, and again, it's...
Mind you, we were only 1 kick away from not finishing on top of the ladder.
Yeah, that's
right. Do you remember that last game?
I do, with Kerners. Yeah, look, it was always close. I remember the game that stands out for me the most was a game up in Sydney, and Sydney were very powerful at the time. I think they'd won a lot of games by a big margin mid-year.
Yes.
But we played up there and we were behind, and it got to the last quarter and we weren't going to win, it looked like. So Wolsey just said, right, go for it. And I reckon that was the moment for us, I know for me, because, you're trying to do the right thing, you're doing everything right, but this was a switch to say, you're in the team, I want you to go for it.
You've got the freedom to do what you want.
I remember on that occasion, Shane was in the back line, I was in the back line, a couple of others. So we just took off every single time. And we came back and we came back and we came back.
Sounds like what Barassi told the Carlton players to do in 1970, in the grand final. Just
go.
Might as well just throw caution to the wind.
And we didn't win, I don't think, that game, but it just changed the way we played, and we felt really confident. A
lot more freedom.
That's the way to play. So from then on, like my role, again, you played most of the game or all the game. In the premiership, I played the whole game. And you were on certain players, and my job really was, if a player like John Platten or anyone came back to have a rest in the back pocket, he wasn't going to have a rest. He was going to go back on the ball more tired than he came off it.
That's it.
So any chance, I just took off, and if they chased me, I went further and farther. So. It was good. So
that's a bit like, I'm not saying, I think, I've heard through the grapevine that there's a little bit what happened with Carlton this year, like halfway through the year. I think they kind of released the shackles a little bit. And
just believe in themselves a bit more.
And get back to...
But they simplified the game.
They simplified it, but I did hear they also simplified it, and they also said, right, just let's get back to why we recruited you, to play footy.
Show us how you can play.
Use some of your initiative and go for it.
And the other, did they so if you get released then and they say, right, just let's play footy, but then if you make a mistake, right,
or your opponent kicks a goal or something,
whatever. Is there do they get back to you and say, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, let's just keep doing it? Does that
probably. And I think the thing was, by then you've got your back line that are all looking after each other. So we would cover, So I knew if someone was taken off, if Reece Jones is going, then I'd keep a bit of an eye. Yeah, you keep an eye out for the other guy, and then you'd let each other know when you're back. Or if they're just sitting too far down and haven't come back.
And when you look at our last couple of premierships of 87 and 95, those defensive units were really closely knit units, weren't they? Those 5 or 6 players really had each other's back.
And again, as you're saying about this year's team, I think that's what's happening now too. They've had injuries and other things that have kept unsettling that group. Now they've had a bit more chance to stay together as a unit, and you gradually get to know each other. Same with the midfield, same with the forwards.
That's 100%. Like, if you know each other, like you take off, you know exactly what
you see Charlie Kerner turn around and just kick it.
Yes.
That doesn't
and the other players know he's going to do that, so they get ready. That's right.
That's
it makes a huge difference.
Well, so 87, as I said, we only lost 3 matches.
Correct.
You played in that last game against North Melbourne, didn't you?
I did, and I remember looking from the other end of the ground thinking, please kick that goal. So it was a massive goal because it meant we finished on top. We got to then have a break. Play, have another break, and then we were cherry ripe come grand final day.
But in that second semi-final, after we had a week's break, Hawthorn, I think, beat the Sydney Swans in the qualifying final. That was when Kappa took that mark, but he was almost horizontal, remember? Over Chris Langford. But anyway, the following week we played Hawthorn, and it was looking actually quite dire at half time. If you remember that game,
I can't remember.
They were like 8 goals 5 at half time, and we were 2 goals 12.
Okay.
I remember we had a lot of the ball, but we just weren't getting it through the big ones.
Yeah,
but
that'd be
boy,
the
did we,
forward's fault, would it?
did we come back?
Forwards fault. That's it.
Yeah, of course. Nothing to do with you guys in defence.
Yeah.
But we came back hard and ended up winning by 15 points, I think it was.
Yeah.
We dominated the second half to get that chance to play in the grand final again.
Yeah, yep.
Another week's rest. Do you think 2 weeks rest in 4 weeks can be dangerous, or is it more of a benefit to try and get over injuries and things like that?
Yeah, I think in those days, because the teams that haven't had any of those rests are starting to get really tired by then.
But now everyone gets that bye now, don't they?
Correct, yeah. So that does give everyone that chance for now as well, yeah.
What do you think is the best and fairest kind of?
I like the
structure?
top 5's great.
Top 5, and then
There's a reward.
What about the rest? Should there be a rest? Should the top 2, top 4 get a rest? Like,
Now?
what do you think? Yeah, what do you?
You're the top 8 now, of course.
Well, I know there's top 8, but now that people are talking about it's unfair that everyone gets a rest, and then
I think if you just like good footy, it gives everyone a chance to have their best squad going.
I think
anyone's
so.
got a crook ankle, crook this, crook that. It gives you a bit of a chance to recover.
I think,
and then all the teams are then playing.
Yes, because it's really a whole new competition, the finals, isn't it?
Otherwise, you
It's
just
like these 8 teams have qualified. Now you guys go into a new competition, and this is how we're going to structure it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just played as it is, and if you limp in, you limp in. If you don't, you don't.
Ian last week, Egan said that like the break after the preliminary for those squads is probably the best, because then
ready for the grand final.
You're ready, and then if you get a concussion, you got time to come back, which makes it. But anyway, listen, if you're good enough.
Well, that's particularly going to come at some stage.
Yeah,
you worry about that sling tackle.
Yes.
What are the rules the coach are going to say come
right.
grand final day? Well, mate, sling away, because blokes are going to be straight off the ground. It's going to be a bit ugly at some point in time.
So you beat Hawthorn in the second semi, you get another week's rest, and watch Hawthorn again beat an opponent called Melbourne in the preliminary final where they were a bit lucky.
Yes.
Right at the end, with Jim Steins going over the mark and
that's right, and then
giving Gary Buckenara a 35-metre shot for goal instead of 50.
Yeah, which is heartbreaking for them. But
anyway, so
it would have been interesting had
going
they got
into
through.
That grand final. What was the feeling around the club? And pretty confident.
Yeah, very confident.
Was it good? Was it good that we were having a forecast of 30-something degrees on grand final day? Were you guys actually?
Well, it was, but
more
for me,
confident as a result of that.
Well, for me, it was interesting because I actually had my own water boy that day.
Is that right?
Because back in pre-season, I was a long distance runner and I could always run fairly well. But Adrian Gleeson had come to the club.
Yes.
And he was the new best long distance runner.
Okay.
So I was chasing him around Princes Park one day, hit the deck and had pretty bad heat stroke. So I was out of action for quite a while. Physically for a long time, but so the heat was a bit of a concern in that regard. But I remember hearing Jono say that he always knew that the young blokes were going to keep running no matter what. And my attitude that day, which I can still clearly remember, was that they'd have to take me back in an ambulance if there's no way, I'm going to stop. If I had to run one more time, I was going to run. I was just going to keep going, and that all came, of course, from playing in 84, 85, and 86 grand finals. I'd lost 2.
Yep.
I was
and you really wanted to make
win
this win.
The first one. I was just ready to go. There was nothing going to stop me, no. So.
And I think, did most of the team think like that? I think they looked pretty determined.
Yeah, I think so. We had a really good balance of players. And
who were you playing on that day?
I played on Russell Green for pretty much the whole day, So that was.
But did he play forward?
Yeah, he played forward and then drifting through the middle, Yeah. So that was good.
John Platten ever go back, sort of resting in the back, in the forward pocket on you?
Not really, no. It was Glazer, I think, tagged Platten through most of the midfield.
Did a great job too.
Yeah, that's right. So Russell Green, Mason, I don't know whether he had a little injury or not, but he was sort of at the back end of it.
I think a lot of Hawthorn players were carrying injuries by that stage. They'd played every week of the finals, and that game against Melbourne was a grueling.
And Dunstall wasn't there. He was.
That's right.
Grueling performance. Dunstall didn't play.
That was a big loss for them,
It was.
And Brereton got cleaned up by Reece Jones. That was a bit of a. They always talk about it, but that was a bit of a masterstroke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it worked out really, really well. So
for Reece, it did. He wins a Norm Smith, man. He was. He did well that day.
Do you remember where we were that night celebrating?
Well,
I was with you.
Well, yeah, at the Southern Cross or something.
Yeah, that's the one.
I didn't have a drink at all that night.
Come on, surely you got to celebrate.
Because
with a drink after a premiership.
No, because I said I never want to forget this.
What did you do? Hang around near the pop players.
No. I said no. We're all pretty tired. I think Peter Dean was upstairs being crook, or Glasgow was saying at some stage.
But the good thing was that the reserves had won the premiership as well, second in a row, back-to-back reserves premierships.
And the year before in '86, we went off and because I used to smile a lot, and I don't know if it was my mouth guard, which was big and white, and they thought I was laughing all the time. I was told if he stopped smiling, he might be a good player. But in '86,
Woolsey's probably having a go at you, and you're there smiling away.
I'm trying to get air, and it's just my white mouth guard. But so Cole Kinnear, that used to be on to me about that. But because we could celebrate in '86, but we had to keep a lid on it because the seniors had lost.
Had lost.
Whereas this was great. So we celebrated, but it was just that first night I didn't have a drink. But then I remember getting home on the Wednesday.
Yep. On the Wednesday after the Saturday.
Yeah, I did. I kept a diary that year actually. Every day I wrote something down, and I read through it recently because I thought I'd just gone out and just got back on Wednesday. But I had actually.
And you didn't drink?
No, I had got home and got changed and all that stuff. Right. We ended up at the Flower Drum, a very posh restaurant.
Yes,
in
Chinese restaurant.
On about Monday night, and Kernes was in there. We just walked in. I don't know why. We must have found out he was there, and by then we had our shirts tied around our heads, and we had the quickest banquet you'd ever seen. Course one, course two. So that was that, and I woke up on my mate's Pebble Mix backyard doorstep at about 10 o'clock in the morning. They wouldn't let me in at night. I didn't think they were home. And then next thing I hear the water coming down in the morning.
Is that right?
So they'd kicked me out. I wasn't very
Hang on, I think I saw you with all the boys, and it would have been between grand final day and that Wednesday that you're talking about.
Yeah, at the pub.
At the Norton's Hotel in Royal Parade. That's when Sticks started singing Stand By Your Man and poured the beer over himself and all that. You were there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was there that day, yeah. No, we stuck together really well, and it was a good camaraderie, and everyone celebrated hard together, which was good. So,
what's the first feeling when you win that grand final? What is it? What's the feeling for you? Because everyone's different,
Yeah, probably relief, and then great joy, and
I'll tell you that's 99% of the time players say it's relief.
Yeah. Well, I think I watched a couple of these little podcasts, and I mean, we were far enough ahead that the last little bit that we could start
enjoy
to look around a bit and say how great's this, So it was, it was just
enjoyed it a bit. Yeah,
it was just a fantastic.
And the good thing about that was that you really ran away with it, because I remember that last quarter Hawthorn were just out on their feet. I mean, Nailey's goal where he just ran away from his opponent, and
they had their chances.
Fraser Murphy kicked a lovely goal in the last quarter.
Warren McKenzie kicked a few points.
And Sticks kicked another one.
Sticks kicked one on the run,
on the run. So it was a fantastic finish to the last quarter.
It was pretty emphatic, which was nice. So and to be with your mates and everything was great.
And that's the other thing. That's what it's all about. They always say, players are always saying, that first half an hour after the siren, or when you're in the change room, that's the best part of the whole.
Just everything's great.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It would have been great.
It was great for us.
Nowadays they come out back into the middle. I mean, that would be great, I'm sure. Now,
and then they've got interviews and they're doing all sorts of stuff now where you've just got together like a bunch of mates.
That's right, and family and that coming in, which was really nice.
Now, 87 too, there was a couple of players who had a couple of incidences. You had like Motley.
Yes, sadly.
And also we lost Motts during the year.
Yes.
Yeah, so how was that? I keep hearing...
Yeah, well, that was galvanising. That brought us together, So Motts, as it's been said before, was exceptional. He came over with all the other blokes. The fact that the club was over the salary cap when I got the sack, it had nothing to do with those blokes at all. But I remember having contract negotiations at one stage with Colo at the great Ian Collins, and I wanted $2.
Was that said with a grain of salt?
No, I wanted $2.50 or something. And he said to me, you can't get that much. And I said, hang on. I said, my Mazda Capella is parked outside here next to an SS Commodore and two 300 ZXs. There's Bradley, Motley, Kernahan, and then there's my Mazda Capella with a white vinyl roof. And he goes, "No, you're getting enough." I said, "Okay, where do I sign?"
That's it.
Colo was pretty brutal. Colo was pretty brutal with his negotiations.
He was good. But when Motley obviously got injured, that was horrific. And Paul Meldrum there too. I think Molly had polled 3 votes in the first 5 games of the year for the Brownlow.
He was probably leading.
So
He was,
and he,
it was definitely well in front by halfway.
Yeah, and to their credit, and Mott's great effort to recover as much as he could, and he had the best of everything, fortunately, and with his health. But yeah, I mean, my main memory of Mott's would be, we're running laps and he's running backwards, talking to us. So
Keeping up.
Yeah, he was just running backwards. That's how fit he was. There's no joke. He'd just run and then flip, turn around, and just run backwards.
I just really,
he would have been
wonder just how good this guy would have been if he was, if he had the opportunity.
As good as the others, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
That's it, yeah. So, yeah.
And what about now? Rocco mentioned Des English.
Yes,
He was diagnosed with cancer early in that year.
Yep.
Now his last game was the grand final of '86, which we lost.
Yep.
And we interviewed him, and he said, the good thing about my career, even though it stopped short, was that I played my last game with Mark McClure in his last game and Bruce Dool in his last game. Now, he obviously intended to keep going and then got diagnosed in early '87.
Yeah.
Are you the beneficiary of that in some ways? Yeah. Because up until then, as you said, you'd only played 6 games in 3 years.
Yeah, most likely.
Him having to obviously go and get treatment and not be able to play, did that open up that back pocket position for you?
Yeah, probably did. And I'd love to give him a bit of a thank you, because at the same time, it wasn't that I'm thanking for that.
Obviously very unfortunate.
Yeah, I was sort of transitioning at the time, so whether I would have been able to break in ahead of him, I don't know. I know one thing I was grateful for was that before training, we'd always come out and have a bit of kick to kick, So I'd be in the goal square because being a defender. And Desi, it was a great person, a great champion.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
But he'd just jump up and go, bang, take this mark. And he'd just look at me and go, one grab, Mick. and of course, me, little scrawny guy, I'd jump up and down comes the ball, And I'm like, oh, damn it, So he'd go, no, it's not good enough. So, him and other players like Wow Jones and all the others, they had standards, So, you just kept
They're always urging you to get better.
It wasn't just the coach who made you better, it was everyone. So every time before training, I'd be up there and just going, trying to
And that's what we call culture, isn't it? I mean, this is the culture that existed back then too.
Correct, yeah.
Those senior players took pride in educating the younger ones coming through.
Yeah, they were all fantastic.
And they took time out of their own.
And all that, they'd all, And that was the funny thing about footy, and probably one of the things to share was, when you're sort of competing against yourself, mentally and physically, you're competing against your best mates, blokes you played with at Faulkner together and others to get into a team. And then you're competing against the opposition. Like, it's a really funny scenario. But doing all that, you find this happy place where you're proud
and
of
you're
what
getting the
you've
best
done.
out of yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. So everyone's happy. I mean, Wayne Johnson, he's a superstar and a legend of the game. But, just at training, I remember one night, Wolsey wanted us to bump each other, handball block and shepherd. And we went around, we're tokenistically doing it. And he'd say, he called us in, he said, hey, we've done this for 5 minutes, I haven't seen one bloke sat down on his butt yet.
Yeah.
So out we go. Jono, of course, he's years ago, and this is going to be grouse. So he comes out, bang, and he whacks into me. So I remember I was not happy. So I jumped up, I've chased him, grabbed him, thrown him on the ground with the ball. And he goes,
gone, that's
great, Nick.
That's better.
So, I loved it.
Well, there you go, you see. He's a competitive beast.
Oh, yeah.
And in finals, there was no one better than Wayne Johnson, was there?
No, there was not.
He was the master of finals football.
He lifted.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Lifted.
I don't know how many grand finals he's played in where he's kicked the first goal of the grand final. I mean, at least 2 or 3.
Well, he should have won a couple of Norm Smiths when they had them back in the day. Now, a funny thing, because we, different things you talk about, different people, but lockers, we talked about locker numbers. And I had Warren McKenzie, 45, and Justin, 44, myself. Willie was 39, I think Robbo, 7 or something like that.
So there was no one at 42, 41
Peter Rhodesy, I think Peter Rhodes, 42 and so on.
Peter Kenny would have been 40?
41 or 40.
40, Peter Kenny.
But what we'd do is you'd run in after training, and whoever was first in, you'd get the old cordial cups and tip them into someone else's locker, have the door slightly ajar, so that you walk in, you weren't thinking, you open up the door and bang. So this went on and on and on. And then Warren McKenzie, he was, I don't know how he did it, I still to this day don't know what he did, but he got a coat hanger and somehow rigged it up that the door could actually be physically shut.
Really?
And the thing was loaded,
Oh, really?
And you could not open the door in any way without just going, doink. And we used to have the meals on a Thursday night, pick the team. Being Carlton.
And the pies and sausage rolls and sauce came out afterwards?
prawns and steaks.
No,
and better food than that. And then
sorry, that was for the coterie members. Sorry, that's right.
And then I'd be at training a few weeks later, and something's a bit weird, you know. It was just a mad, and in the bottom of my sports bag, all these prawn heads.
That's the best.
You just want to get them back, don't you? Those blokes.
Yeah, you do, but mate,
But fun,
great time.
You're having fun. You're working hard.
But there's some of the memories you've got forever as a player.
It's not all about the footy games.
Tell the stories. Yeah.
Something serious. You said something before that kind of triggered me. So you're trying to get into the team. You're in and out.
Yeah.
And you're competing against other people that are your mates, you know.
Yeah.
You're kind of wishing that they don't have the best game so you can get in. Like, what's that feeling? Because really, I know you're playing for a team, but you're also it's about yourself.
Self-preservation a little bit.
Well, it is interesting, and that's why now I'm a pretty neutral sort of. I mean, I love Carlton, and it's more at finals time. Like if it gets to finals, I'm revved back up like I would have always been.
Yeah.
But because I barracked for Geelong as a kid, and because I played so much reserves footy, you do tend to. You're not barracking against a player. I never felt that, but just the team. Like if Carlton seniors keeps winning, and I'm playing in the seconds, I'm probably going to keep playing in the seconds. So there is a little part of you that keeps thinking.
Yes.
I hope they fall over.
Well, you know,
No, maybe that's being honest.
Maybe a bad quarter or maybe something. Give me a chance. Because you could be best on ground 3 weeks in a row in the reserves, and then you're named as emergency, but you don't get in. So again, a lot of things in life are about luck and time and place. And
we've often asked players who have missed out on a grand final, for example, whether it's through injury or suspension. Take Fraser Murphy in '86. He got suspended. For the '86 grand final. Now, is there a part of him that was thinking, God, I hope they don't win because I don't want to miss out on being a premiership player? Or is he actually hoping that they win? Now, I think most guys will say, look, of course I'm happy for the guys if they win.
That's right.
But there's an element of you that says, damn it, I missed out on that.
Yeah, I think it is. It just is what it is.
Did you ever have an example of that in your life, in your footballing career?
No, I don't think I ever felt like that as such. But you just want to have a chance, and as I said before, you always feel like you're good enough, and you don't realise that you're not. You know what I mean? So you need time to pass that you think back and think, actually, look, my kicking wasn't great.
Yeah.
I actually one of the funniest ones, which still gives me the irks. Good old Serge Savani, if you're watching, g'day Serge, at the Brunswick Town Hall there one day. You might have been there as well, you blokes. Best first year player in 1984 in the reserves. You were. Reserves, not in the seniors, because my mate Willie. Best first year player in the seniors.
In the seniors, yes.
So anyway, Serge gets up, he goes, this award to this bloke. He didn't say who it was, he goes, he can't kick, he can't mark, and he can't handball, but he has a go. Mick Kennedy. I was going, thanks Serge.
Thanks mate, I appreciate that.
But I mean, even I didn't take it too bad, but that's the sort of thing. You knew who you were and what your role was, and that, and not everyone can do that role, you see. Like there's plenty of more talented people that I saw come and go, with much more talent, but they didn't have the tenacity, they didn't have the endurance, they didn't have any luck with injuries. So a lot of things can happen. And,
of course.
Like today's team, I reckon they got better once they've got some younger blokes or some blokes who have been on the fringes for a long time.
I agree.
That have come in and they want to play, and you know what you're going to get. You're going to get 100% every single time.
Yeah.
They're not going to just miss a ball and go, bad luck sort of thing.
I agree, and that would, that would push everyone else along. Like if they're the ones who are never giving up. Someone like, for example, our side now. So I know it's only his first year, but someone like Hollands on the wing there, man, like that bloke. We've named him the Blue Healer now because the bloke just doesn't give up. Man.
He chases the ball like a dog does.
Just run, you know what I mean?
And it's inspiring for the other blokes who've been around a long time. Think, well, actually.
This 18-year-old showing us up.
That's what I've got to do.
And I think you are the same. There has to be that competition in spots and that.
And that's the great thing about Carlton. There always was. There was always someone
ready to take your spot.
As I said, the reserves teams were great, and and I did want to say, like, you had great players, but you had a great club. The culture was, you had great coaches, Colin Kinnear, Wade Park and Wolsey and Jezelenko. But you had great administrators, Goffey, Colo and the others.
What was John Elliott like as a president back then?
How was John?
How did you find him?
Well, I'm a local bloke, he didn't talk to me at all. So I don't know. He was, put it this way, in '86 when they lost, my understanding was, and I don't think I wasn't in the room at the time, but he came after the game. You would have been told, and he gave all the players a spray. You've embarrassed the club, this and that. You know, that's the last thing you want to hear after a grand final. But maybe it's the first thing you need to hear. You know, you see other clubs who get close and lose, and everyone's patting them on the back.
Well, he certainly put
I don't know if that helped or not. But
I think
it's all the bits and pieces that make someone want to get better. You know.
Yeah.
So,
well, he didn't accept second place, and wasn't there a sign that coming second
is not acceptable or not good enough?
Whatever it was, but
coming second is not good enough.
No, and you knew that, and I think that culture permeated, and you had big.
Well, Wolsey wouldn't have been happy either. I mean, he had a lot of pressure on him to produce a premiership.
Yeah.
So he knew that you needed to get better and to go one better the following year.
Yeah. And that's where he changed in '88.
Yes.
And for someone like myself, I didn't particularly like the change, you know, because he became very militant. And his understanding was that not many teams win back-to-back.
Yes.
So there will be players that become complacent, there'll be this and that. So I think the mistake that, if I was talking to him when I said, the mistake he made was that everyone's going to do that. You know, I wasn't going to be complacent. I'd played so much reserve footy. I was just starting off.
Of course.
I wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're all treated a bit like that, you know, and I think the morale dropped a bit and, you know,
So did you even pick that up in '88? Now, we still had a very good year. We won a lot of games.
Yeah.
We won a good final against Collingwood in '88, in the qualifying final.
Yeah,
but then we dropped a couple and then we were gone. So did you even detect through '88 or through the finals of '88 that maybe Wolsey had just lost the players a bit in that respect? Or did that only really happen in '89 when we started losing a lot of games?
Probably mostly '89, but I never really thought that. But it was just a different attitude. Like I know, like just training. I think I had a groin injury at the start of '88, and I didn't. I was very lucky. I've had very little injuries, but I didn't even know I had it. You know, it was just I'm standing next to a bloke. I remember playing on Egan from Richmond. You know, strong forward player, and he'd take off. You know, and I'd sort of take a while to get going. By then, you know,
he's already in front of you.
So I was getting criticised for that, and I thought, I couldn't explain what was going on. I didn't even know what it was. But instead of what's happening, you know, it was sort of da 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 da. You know, So anyway, it is everyone. You try different things. If you had been nice to us and whatever, and we had been unsuccessful, you were too nice. You know?
It's his personality. What are you going to do?
But you got to remember the background. Robert Walls, and probably the most influential person in his footballing life would have been Ron Barassi. So a lot of these fire and brimstone coaches like Barassi influenced guys like Walls, and then maybe even people like Dennis Pagan, who was under Barassi both at Carlton and North Melbourne. A lot of these types of coaches, you know, grew up under that regime. Parkin was under John Kennedy. He was very much a fire and brimstone coach. So I think a lot of them use those same tactics. What you've been taught, you then pass on to the next.
And it wasn't like that all the time or anything, but it was just moments where. And of course, if you're winning, you know those things.
We've interviewed Robert Walls. He recognises now, and probably has for a long time, that he'd lost the players. In '89, he knew he'd lost them. And. You know, probably at the time not happy, but probably understands why they did what they did to get rid of him at the time. So you would have been there through that period, '89, the sacking of Robert Walls, and Jezza comes in. You only played the rest of that year under him.
It was an interesting time because we'd only ever heard about, you know, we're saying how hard training was with Wolsey. I mean, I think our longest training session with Parkin was 3 hours and 40 minutes. You know,
wow,
astronomical.
That's a long time.
Yeah, we're seeing stars, you know, that night. And then Wolsey was pretty tough too. But then all the older blokes were saying, you don't know anything. You wait till you get Jezza. You know, Jezza was the worst. Tractor tyres, getting pulled off.
That was the latest evidence.
So then, of course, when Jezza comes back, we're thinking, oh no, we're dead, you know.
And what was he like?
Well, did you hear the story of our first training session with him? You haven't heard that yet? You would have heard.
Well, we heard one last week. You tell us your version.
Well, our first, you know, the jobs happened and Jezza's in, and we were having to train, but we couldn't train at Princes Park because it was flooded, sort of thing. So we had to go to Albert Park onto the couch grass.
Okay.
So we're down at driving through town, traffic, all the rest of it, and we get there and meet the coach, and there's Jezza, and I think he's just arrived happily for the training session, and
media everywhere. Probably
we're thinking, what's going to happen here? We're going to get killed, and he says to us, right, split up, seniors from Saturday there, the reserves there. Here's a ball each. Right, race around the goals, ball back round, back to the middle. Let's see who wins. So we did that once, He goes, rightio, fellas, now down to the goal square, longest kick competition from the goal square. And that was end of training. well done. What just happened? So Mill Hannah's kicking torpedoes, drop kicks and stuff. And of course we went on to win a few games because the pressure was off.
The pressure was off.
And we all started to, this is good.
Is that what happens? Now you get that.
I think so. Yeah, he just felt a bit happy. But the funny thing was then we went into the game, the match, and I think I was emergency I've been playing a couple of reserve games at that stage. And he walks in and he's right, back pocket, Kennedy, Silvani, and he's going, who's in the other back pocket, but with Wolsey, it was already written up. Yeah. There's the 5 key talking points, here's the opposition.
So he's trying to remember who plays where.
The whole thing was blank, there was nothing there, and it was like, here's the back line, right, okay, you blokes, just kick it down here. And then, now the forwards, this is what we're going to do.
So, not exactly sophisticated, is it?
And his main theme was, if we play at Princess Park, Waverley, if we play out in the car park, once we put the jumper on, we're playing for Carlton, we're going to win. So that was good. But anyway.
But it doesn't sound like there was much strategy behind game plans or anything else.
No, and so it lasted for a little bit. It wasn't going to last.
No. So it's almost like an interim coach coming in now when you hear about, like Hardwick.
I think so.
Left Richmond this year. In comes McQualter. Frees them up.
Yeah, that's right.
Gold Coast the same. Stuart Dew's gone.
You've got to come in for half a season.
That's
right.
What
are you going to do? You're going to bring in
you're not going to change. You're not going to reinvent the wheel.
That's right.
So then Jezza stayed on for 1990 as well. Now you didn't play there then, but we never went anywhere. We still remained in the same sort of position on the ladder. Didn't play finals.
But anyway. I just don't worry about when he wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is you've signed like a couple-year contract.
I did, yes.
And then what happens?
Well, actually, interestingly, I played the last. This is what irks me a bit. I played the last 8 games under Jezza with a fractured ankle because I was running along and Big Paul here at Waverley, and the ball spilled out, and I was about to kick it off the ground, and he's reached out with his big long arm and put his hand on the ball, and I kicked the ball and snapped my foot back and just fractured my ankle. But I didn't really know it at the time. I never had an X-ray or anything like they do these days, and hobbled through training for the next 8 weeks.
So what do? You just strap it up, like?
Well, I could run in a straight line.
How do you keep going with a fractured ankle?
Well, I could kick both feet, so I was pretty right. I could kick left foot. But then we had training.
I can't believe you're even walking, let alone running and kicking.
I used to just swell up and that, so you didn't really know. And so training with those wet footies and that, I went, I can't. So I couldn't kick without training, and it sort of settled down a bit and then get sore. But anyway,
did you sign that contract before the end of 89, or was that the start of 89?
At the end of 89, I signed a 2-year contract. So I was up, which would have made me a life member, which would have been very exciting at the time. Consequently, I have been anyway.
You are a life member because you're a premiership player. That's right.
But that was excited about that, and then I got the thing you don't ever want, but I always argued I wouldn't cry about, was the phone call it came down into the trainer's room. Can Mick Kennedy go and see Colo?
Now this is just before the 1990 season is about to commence?
It's sort of,
February, March
before Christmas or something like that.
So you get an announcement over the...
just a buzz, the phone goes, the bat phone in there. And of course I'm never in the trainer's room necessarily, and I'm never called, no one's called. So funnily, as soon as the phone went, I went, oh no, I'm gone.
Really? You just knew it?
It's crazy that you would think that.
Wow. Yeah.
So of course called over, look, we're over the salary cap, something's going to have to go, and I did have a bit of a laugh that I was the person putting them over the salary cap. You're kidding, are you?
You're the feather.
But hang on.
They must have been $1.50 over the salary cap.
Regardless of that, you've got a contract. You could have said, sorry, I've got a contract, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Mind you, that might have meant playing reserves football for the next 2 years. But
I think the thing for me was that I felt that I'd done everything I could for the club, and I felt the club had done everything for me. And I didn't feel I owed them anything, and I didn't feel bitter and feel that they owed me anything.
Right.
And having seen all those other great players come and go in my time, I thought, well, it just happens. It happens. And then,
so all of a sudden you end up at the Sydney Swans.
Well, Colin Kinnear was coaching Sydney.
I was just going to say,
I had a chat to Footscray. I had a chat to Geelong.
You have a manager?
No, I didn't have a manager. No, I just did it all myself. I'm an educated person.
But
I ended up basically on the same money up in Sydney.
Okay.
Sadly, they were going broke too then because Mike Willisey was involved.
Yes.
the Edelson days were over, and so I think I took a 20% pay cut after about 7
They were
rounds.
victims of the recession back then, like most of us.
Yeah, that's probably
Sydney
true
Swans.
too. Yeah, so
With the contract, right? So you got a 2-year contract with Carlton, right?
yeah.
So then what happens? Do they?
Well, it says
do
on.
they have to honour that? What happens?
Yeah, well, there's other things that have happened which I'd rather not discuss.
No, I mean, I just
How many
wanna-
brown paper bags are involved?
No, I don't want to discuss that. What I want to know is what happens with you and Sydney. Like, do they,
Yeah, with the
is
contract.
a brand new contract that
No,
do
there's
they just rip up their
But
contract?
they can
in
do a
those
new
days,
contract with him.
The contracts
and
must be
Carlton's
better
one
now.
is gone.
In those days, the contract said that you'll get paid X amount, provided you're on the senior list.
Ah,
So that was the wording.
So
So
they can
as soon as they
cut
took
you-
you off the senior list, your contract disappeared.
So in other words, there was a
wasn't worth
clause
the
there
paper.
that protected the club and
Yeah,
stuffed you up.
correct.
see, that's interesting. That's what I wanted to
It
know.
wasn't worth the paper it was written on, but
Right.
yeah, allegedly you could
Interesting.
get some
So you
money
should have got a
if you wanted
manager.
to. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so anyway, so it worked out all right. I had a great year in Sydney, and my lovely young wife and I, who's still, we went up there and had a great year. Probably had my best footy year. So I took, because I had the ankle.
I was just going to say, you played a really good year there.
Yeah, I did.
Played 15 games.
15 games. I think I came 6th in the best and fairest.
No, wrong.
What?
Third.
You come third.
No, I did not come third. No, I
That's what we read up. We read up that you came third in the best and fairest
that's
there.
incorrect.
I came 6th. No, that's wrong.
Did you?
But I'll stay
All
with
right, we'll
that.
have to get on to Blueseum and tell them that they're wrong.
I
You
might
should
change
have.
that.
You should have just stuck with the third.
I should have.
No, but that's
But I had a
still
good
like
year.
15 games.
Yeah, so I played, again, because of the ankle, I got off to a bit of a slow start because I didn't have to have an operation, I just had to rest it, So that was okay. So then, and Mark McClure actually was up there coaching the reserves at the time too. So I played a couple of reserve games and then I got into the team. And then about halfway through the year, I ran into Tony Free from Richmond. I was picking the ball up, he's got the elbow going, hit me right in the forehead. And my head went back and I pinched the nerve. I actually got a paralysed arm from the nerve. And I
Really?
didn't.
Not even today?
No.
Oh, just
now.
at the time.
But at the time, so
thank goodness.
I picked the ball up with this free kick. I went to kick it, my arm just fell down, and the ball falls on the ground. So I knew I was in a bit of strife.
Wow.
But anyway, so I had to have 4 weeks off, and it came good slowly. But so then
Scary moment.
Interestingly, for me personally, at that time, Cole Kinnear was coaching, and he said something to me that sort of resonated, as some people do on occasions. And he just said, "You shouldn't be just aiming to get into this team anymore. You should be aiming to be one of the better players." And again, it just sort of hit something. So from when I came back,
It sets the bar at a new level, doesn't it?
because it was good. Again, it probably released me because I'd always been a bloke trying to get a game, trying to keep my game. Whereas now I thought, no, now I'm in the team, and college showed me a bit of confidence. So what I was doing then was I would just play the first quarter and say, right, out of these 20 blokes that I'm playing with, where am I at quarter time? I reckon I've probably got 10 blokes. If I go flat out, I can be better than 10 of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then by half time, that's probably gone down to 7 or so. And then 3/4 time, now I'm in the top 5.
Yeah.
I can have a big last quarter.
Wow,
so
that's good.
Mentally, I just sort of did that, and I think I polled in 8 of the last 10 games or something.
Yeah.
At
Gee,
the
that's
club,
good.
at club level. But Greg Williams still beat me by a vote in the
So
best
you
and fairest.
played with Greg Williams in those days?
He only played 11 games. I played 15, but he still beat me.
Oh, you beat your mum.
I would have loved to have been able to beat
Did you play with Jared Healy then
Jared
too?
Healy, Barry Mitchell.
Wow. That was a good
David
team.
Murphy, Bernard Toohey. But we had a lot of injuries. So Diesel only played 11. I think Greg Healy did his wrist that year. That was what ended his career. Jared, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what ended his career in the end.
They were
Rod
getting
Carter
towards
was
the end of
playing.
theirs in a lot of ways. Maybe not Greg,
I
but
went there
certainly
thinking that there was,
Healy was.
still a chance to play good footy.
Yeah.
The one I missed out on, probably, I went down to Geelong and had a chat to them with Malcolm Blight, and that would have perhaps turned out to be a good decision. But they abused in the back pocket, so I was sort of thinking,
that's right. So that's
that might be hard.
Plus
But
it would have tugged on the heartstrings being a Geelong supporter as a
that would
kid.
have been nice, yeah. But yeah, fabulous place to play and live. And at the end of the year, interestingly, and I think you spoke to Fraser about how much he got paid, and we'd already taken a 20% pay cut, and then they got some bloke from rugby league or something come in to look at the books. So they offered me half my contract. So if I had played every game in 1991, I would have made $24,000.
That's all.
Every game, yeah.
If I played, if I hadn't played, this was incentive based. So I just said, how can I stay?
I think that's when a lot of the players ended up retiring and leaving and what have you anyway.
When you went to Sydney, were you working?
Yeah, I've always worked.
So you were working there too, yeah?
I sort of had because it was because I'm a school teacher, it was a 3-term process then.
Yeah.
So I went up there without a job.
Yeah.
And then I had the first term, but then I got a teaching job,
Yes,
so I taught up there. But
Yep.
unfortunately, it was just the 1 year in the end.
Yeah.
Would have loved it to be more, but because I hurt my neck and because they weren't really caring about the money, I thought, well, I'm not here to hurt myself. And my wife was pregnant, so.
And you were still young, right? You were 27.
Yeah, but you don't need to be paralysed for the sake of nothing. So I came back, had a year off, which helped everything recover, and then I coached Dandenong and
You didn't want to keep playing at that stage, be a playing coach?
I played. Yeah, I was a playing.
Oh,
coach
you still
at
played?
Dandenong.
Okay,
Yeah, I kept
right.
playing. So I had a couple of years playing coach there with Brad Gotch as my assistant.
Oh yeah.
Which was good, and then they wanted a non-playing coach. So whilst I was thinking about that, they appointed Gotchi as a non-playing coach. So then I went to Box Hill and played my final year there, which was a grand final year for them as well, which was good. So
you're playing grand final?
I didn't know. What I did there was I broke my foot up school teaching. I was doing a dance unit, believe it or not.
So it wasn't even a football injury?
No, primary school kids. And it was just standing up all day and it just snapped, So I got a screw put in my foot. So I only played the last few games, didn't make it into the grand final team. I got dropped for their vice captain, came back.
Right.
And I was spewing because I felt, because I was a fitness player, and I took a long time to get fit, but on that grand final day, I felt great. Like I felt super.
I felt like you could have gone out there and
if I had
played
just
a blinder.
one more game,
Did they win?
Great. No, they got beaten by Sandringham.
So you probably went, stick it up.
No, you always want
suffering your jocks.
So that was that. Then I went out to Vermont for 3 years and coached there.
Okay.
So I had one premiership and then lost 2 grand finals to Alan Richardson's East Burwood team.
Oh.
So,
it's amazing how many former players go into the suburbs and start, or even country towns and start coaching their local side.
I always ask this, when you went and played like a bit of local footy, do you get targeted?
Well, I only played VFA. I didn't play.
VFA.
And of course, I'm playing at Dandenong, so I've got a few good, handy players with me.
So VFA,
I reckon I copped a couple of whacks, but not really. Most blokes are pretty good. I think if you're a thug, you get other thugs. My theory was even AFL. Jono, we played at St Kilda one day and Cunningham's and that. They were pretty tough nuts. They'd be banging into Jono and that, and me and all the other blokes would be just running around doing our thing. So the tough guys find each other out because they love it.
Yeah, that's it.
And those blokes who don't.
They do.
So most of them.
That's true.
Now, the other thing I forgot to tell you about 87, which was very lucky for me, was I got reported in the round 20.
Oh, really?
So that,
I don't remember
if it had
Who was that against?
Fitzroy.
At Princess Park?
At Princess Park. If it had been today, I would have got about 5 weeks.
Well, what did you do?
The week before we played Geelong, and it was the end of the game, we were winning, and I was on the wing, and Couch turns up, and I never rated him much as a hard going at the ball player. So we lined up each other. As the bloke bounces the ball, the umpire, he's just given me this biggest backhander right in the face. So of course we ended up wrestling and so on and so forth. So then for the rest of the game, it was about 15-20 minutes to go. I'm standing next to him, and my brain's saying, just give him a
next
whack.
to Couchy.
Give him a whack. And my mum's on my other shoulder going, don't touch him, don't touch him. And so all this last 15 minutes, I'm going, hit him, don't hit him. Anyway, I didn't hit him. So then all week I'm dreaming about, I should have put a whack. So then we play Fitzroy, poor old Fitzroy, and Billy Loken, nicest bloke you've ever met.
Billy Loken, he was
He runs
a good
up,
player.
we're on the boundary line, and I don't know what happened, but he pushes me straight in the face, and my brain snapped. I just gone bang.
Really?
And then I've never hit a bloke in my life. So, and down he goes, and I'm trying to hold him up, Down he goes. So I laid him gently down on the ground, and then as a melee comes in, I've tiptoed out the back, hoping to disappear. Got the tap on the shoulder, but I got a severe reprimand. So
is that right?
As Wolsey said, gee, you were lucky, Mick.
Yeah.
Because that would have got someone in, Jimmy Buckley, whoever.
Well, it's not just... even if it was only a couple of weeks, it doesn't mean you're suspended for the finals, but you might relinquish your spot in the team to someone else.
Someone else takes it.
And then you might find it hard to get back in.
Well, your opportunity's gone.
We've kind of seen it a little bit now, with our team at the moment, like Boyd. Gets suspended for 3 weeks, and Fisher comes in, and all of a sudden he's playing some
Boyd can't
footy,
get back
now,
in.
Correct.
Now he might not get back in. Well, talking about this team, let's. This has been a great discussion, but you watch a bit of footy now. You watch the Blues.
I like to. Yes, I do.
You're a Blues man, aren't you?
I am. Yes, definitely.
Of course. But you still got a soft spot for Geelong, haven't you?
No, not really. No.
Oh, good.
No.
I like it. All right, now, how are we going? We're just on the eve of the first final for about 10 or 12 years. Well, they say 10, but really 12, because that 2013 we kind of got gifted that final spot. But
yeah, I think we're a lot closer now, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think we had a reunion.
We did.
Of the actually after that the 80s group, which was good. So I spent against the the Suns. So the Suns, and we got flogged in the first quarter. And I spent that first quarter with Shane O'Sullivan talking footy.
That's just before Carlton decided to play football.
Yeah. I'm assuming he went down and told them what I was thinking. So, I had lots of thoughts and ideas, and I actually had to write them down one day because I was so frustrated. But, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. Defence is different now. So I'm a defender predominantly. So it's a team defence, but I'm not a big rap for the zone, just the full-on zone all the time zone. Because I think we're getting caught out, as we did, probably with a different attitude on the weekend, but against great GWS. But I think you don't always have to zone straight away. I would prefer that you knew who your player was, and then even if you enter into a zone, you know where the guy is, because that's your responsibility as a team defence. But once we get it, then of course that helps to rebound and take off and so on. And I think, again, as the years progress, teams have shifted even their zone. Like you now look at how players attack Collingwood and Geelong. Both those teams, I watched Geelong a fair bit this year, and Fremantle beat Geelong by pulling their whole zone up to within 25 metres of whoever's got the ball.
So they move it right up.
They moved it right up, and Geelong were hoping to chip it around, and they lost that completely.
Yeah.
And then when the turnover came, they had all these players close.
Already close
and
to
you
goal.
see now Collingwood, early in the year were running the ball out so easily, and then teams have now rebounded forward at them, and suddenly they're choking. So it's interesting. So assuming Carlton would be responding to that too and moving the zone up further, but my cautionary advice would be make sure we got someone at the back of the line who's quick enough and clever enough to know when enough's enough and to say, hey boys, let's get back here now.
We got caught out a bit this week.
And you don't want to get caught out in finals.
No.
And again, because each side plays to their strengths. A team that's got a super quick, like Melbourne have got very quick small forwards. Even their tall forwards are very quick. They're going to keep getting you all the time. So I think in those circumstances, give up on the crush up and just bring it back a little bit and respond. You just got to, and that's probably the thing is you've got to respond. Don't just do the same thing. And my criticism earlier in the year was we were very, very predictable.
Yes.
Like Silvani and Curnow starting in the goal square, wrestle. They run off. Silvani runs right to the other end of the ground. I watched 5 games. I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And we all knew. They were just kicking long. They were just down the wing every single time.
But, let Cripps come down to the forward line. He might not kick a goal, but it changes things,
100%.
And let's just keep
and
mixing
they did
things
do
up.
that. They moved a lot more people through that midfield. People like Fogarty were coming in there. Cunningham, I think, made a difference.
Changes up.
Yeah, it changes.
They're expecting to man up a certain player. They're expected to stand in a certain spot. Suddenly that guy's not there anymore. I think that all those little unpredictable things are what make champion teams. And you're all good enough, so it doesn't have to be Cripper in the middle all the time. Put Fogarty in there, trust him, and off he goes. So,
Who's our biggest threat in the final series? First of all, do you think we can actually go all the way and win it?
I think we could.
And
I think Melbourne, Port Adelaide and Collingwood are the 3 teams. I worry about Collingwood that teams are always close to them at three-quarter time. Like, that's not a good sign to me. They're a very good team, but I think they've got deficits.
They have.
They're not a natural goal-kicking team unless things are set up the way they want to be. Their defence is pretty good.
So that's interesting. Melbourne, Port Adelaide and Collingwood. So you don't rate Brisbane as a realistic chance?
No.
Even though they might just play 2 games in the
they'll make the
Gabba?
grand final, for sure. They can certainly do it. But I think those are the 3 biggest threats. But Collingwood leave themselves open to losing.
They do.
Melbourne, I think, their advantage now is that they've won 1. And clubs who think they're going to keep winning 3 or 4, they've lost 1. And if they're smart enough to say, hey, this could be our last chance,
the window's closing.
Bring it together. And again, you need luck. So who's fit, who's healthy?
The good thing is that we have, coming into this first final, we are a healthy list. I think there's only one
close to full strength.
So that helps a lot.
The only player that we know is and has been missing all year is Zach Williams.
Yeah, that's it.
But really, other than him, and I guess Jack Silvani hasn't played for a month. Yeah. But
But apart from that,
other than
everyone's
those two, and he's still a chance to some degree to come into the team. Otherwise, we've got a full complement to choose
I
from.
think we give ourselves a big chance, and we have got the best player in the competition at the moment. I don't care what anyone says.
Which one's that, Curnow? Or
Come on, Kerner.
what about Walsh, who's one of the best too?
No, well, he's good. And
Impact,
Cripps,
from an impact point of view,
And
Kerner.
Cripps is like, I think he's a bull, you know. I think he's going to step up, and I think Wiedering, you know, there, but Kernow's got that X factor that could actually tear a game apart.
You could see him playing a big part in the final series and tearing the finals apart, can't you?
I've thought they've really improved too with Martin in the side.
Martin's huge.
He provides something different too, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%. Martin's been huge. There's been a few players that have lifted, like the Martin.
Yeah.
I thought Motlop in the last month or 6 weeks has been really big improvement.
The addition to the defence that you talked about earlier that really, I think, has made a big difference is the introduction of Brodie Kemp.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an intercept player as well. So we've got 2 or 3 down there that you could call an intercept player. Kemp, McGovern.
And Chincotta,
Chincotta's another one.
Yeah, Chincotta's good.
He's the example of what I perhaps was. You know, a young bloke being given a chance. You know,
and
I like him.
His only problem is he hasn't got 43 on his back. He's got Mark Williams' number on his back, number 39.
Well, that's not too bad. No, Setterfield's lost that.
No, I'm only kidding. But I mean, we don't have a number 43 this year. Do you know that?
Disappointing. Cuda Kennedy, that's...
You'd be pretty proud of how Cuda held up the number. And you took over from David Swan Mackay, of course.
Mackay, we stick together, the 43. It's always nice to say good day to Swanee.
All premiership players.
All life members and premiership
Maybe
players.
we need a 43 in the team.
We do, I'm telling you.
We haven't got a 43 at all.
Will Setterfield had the number. He went to Essendon, and we didn't replace anyone with that number.
Next
That's
year.
it.
A big recruit next year.
Maybe Chincotta should have asked for 43. You know, there's his mistake.
The 39, man.
I think Ange Christo would be
pretty happy with him.
He went for the Ange Christo number rather than his
not a
mate
bad
Cuda.
number. That's
I think he likes it.
But look, Nick, we could keep talking for just another hour and a half about you and your life and your career. And as you said, you're a school principal. Have been for how long?
Well, I've just finished up this year after 36 years in teaching, education.
Fantastic.
So 16 years as a principal.
Fantastic.
System, so.
Here in this area, in Ballarat?
Melbourne, Gladstone Park, Heidelberg and all that to start with. And then when we moved here 23 years ago, Ballarat area. So
Excellent.
which is good.
Big responsibility being the principal of a school, isn't it?
It is. The kids are fine. It's the parents that are trouble.
That does not surprise me at all. But and also, of course, post-career, post-football career, coaching and all that, you've done remarkably well. Coached premierships and
had a good run.
You had 59 excellent games at Carlton, and of course, the '87 premiership is the pinnacle of your playing career.
Yeah.
I think you kicked a total of 9 goals in your career.
9 goals.
Didn't you? 6 at Carlton.
I kicked 2 against Essendon one day.
Oh, that's right. We'll have to get some highlights of your big day against Essendon. But I think 6 at Carlton, 3 at Sydney Swans.
Probably that. Yeah. I wasn't.
But you played 15 games there, so you did yourself proud, mate. And it's great to see you. And congratulations on a wonderful career.
Thank you, and if I could just thank yourselves and all, the supporters too. Like it's a great club.
Of course.
Carlton's a fabulous club, and it's a lot of people put in a lot of time, a lot of effort to support the players, to help the players, coach the players.
Give everyone a bit of, at the end of the day, like the joy.
Yeah.
The joy especially like you get the joy for playing, but we get the joy for supporting it.
Correct.
And it's always great to I guess, tell the story. Everyone's got their own story, and to hear your story today and be able to share it with our viewers on the Michael Kennedy story has been fantastic. Thanks for inviting us to your home, and
Pleasure.
look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks,
and now that we've finished the interview,
Yes.
one of the things that you can add to your little resume now, apart from premiership player and all these sorts of things, right at the top now, you are now
a legend of the jumper punch.
That's
That's it, because we are the jumper punch. Yeah, that's it.
So we always finish off by giving a big go Blues. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Go
Blues!
Buried deep within a cemetery, I will fight, never weary. I wanna be legendary till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary. I wanna be legendary. out of the gate, I'll be last place, that's alright. I don't work at a fast pace, I'm a steady horse creeping.